please, everybody, then we can make a start. Okay. May I welcome members of the committee and the public to the meeting, and officers. May I also welcome Councillor Darrell Polk, who's a new district and borough council rep from Bassett Law. Formally welcome Councillor Andy Edivine as a representative from Rushcliffe. Didn't welcome him at the AGM. Welcome John Cockcroft, our new trade union representative. And Matthew Hardick is a senior risk Zurich consultant from Zurich, and his colleague Harvey Core. Welcome, trainee risk consultant. Thank you for coming along. My name is Councillor Eric Kerry, and I'm chairman of the meeting. May I remind you all that this meeting is being broadcast live, and can I remind members to use their microphones when speaking so that they can be heard on the broadcast, and please switch them off when you've finished. Before we begin the meeting, I normally read some things about placards and banners, but there aren't any people in the public gallery, so I won't do that today. So we'll move swiftly on to the minutes of the last meeting held on the 12th of December 2024, and may I ask for us, the colleagues committee, if the minutes of last meeting can be agreed, please. Any comments, questions? That looks unanimous. Thank you very much. So we've agreed those. I'll sign them later. I'd like to move on to item number 2, which is apologies for absence, and may I ask Don Monaghan to confirm the apologies and substitutions, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Jim Creamer is substituting for Councillor Sheila Place, who sends apologies under the category medical reasons. Councillor Nigel Moxon is substituting for Councillor Roger Jackson, who sends apologies under the category medical reasons. Councillor John O'Lee is substituting for Councillor Sue Saddington, who sends apologies under the category medical reasons. And we also have apologies for Councillor AJ Matsiko from Nottingham City Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dom. Are there any other apologies that we might be aware of? Okay, I see none. Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, which is declarations of interest by members and officers. Does any councillor or officer have any interest in any matter on the agenda they need to disclose, please? I see none. Okay. Sorry. So, right, yes. Everton, yes.
I think it's 12 and 14 now.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for letting us know. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4 then. It was a working party that we had a few weeks ago, quite recently. Before I hand over to Tamsin to introduce the report, I'd like to move the recommendation, which is on page 11 of our agenda pack, and may I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, happy to second that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Butler. Tamsin, would you like to take us through the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Members are aware of the well-attended working party in January to discuss the investment strategy of the pension fund. This meeting gave members the opportunity to discuss the investment strategy in detail, and as a result of this, the following recommendations are made to committee. 1. Increase the allocation to the inflation category by 1.5% through a 1.5% increase in index-linked gilts. 2. Increase the allocation to the income category by 1.5% through a 1.5% increase in gilts. 3. Decrease the allocation to listed equities by 3% through a 2.9% reduction in developed markets and a 0.1% reduction in emerging markets. And 4. Recategorise the investment in Cheney Capital Real Estate Credit Fund from real estate to credit. The Working Party also considered a report from William Bourne about the potential impacts of the reforms proposed in the LGPS Fit for the Future consultation. No further actions were recommended at this point as a result of these discussions. Responsible investment training was provided by LGPS Central, looking at stewardship activity, including some of that undertaken as part of the Climate Stewardship Trust Strategy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Tamsin. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Bourne, William, to that?
Mr. Bourne, William, will try and add something. For those members who didn't attend the working party, just to emphasise that the reforms which the government is proposing are very substantial, and there will be a lot of discussion over the next few months and years about it. They do, I'm afraid, take powers away from this committee, and they're not all very comfortable to any of us sitting in this room. I'll take the review as read. Do please feel free to ask questions.
Yes, thank you very much, William. And it was a very well attended working group. There was a lot of really good contributions. It was a very good piece of work, I believe, and that's reflected in the papers today. Any questions or comments from members, please? Councillor Butler.
Yeah, thank you. Not a question as such, just a comment. To echo your points, it was, as these working groups and discussions go, one of the better ones I think we'd had. And for the reasons we've just heard, it's so very, very important. And there are a lot of potential implications down the line, some of which we know and some of which we've yet to know. Yeah. So it was good to be there. On a very minor point, admin point, despite my name not being there, I was there. I plainly hadn't signed the signing in form, so if anyone thinks I wasn't there, I was there. But don't worry about it.
Okay. Well spotted, Councillor
Yes.
Butler. That will be amended. Okay, I see no further indications for anyone to speak, so we'll move on to the vote to accept the 4 recommendations on page 11. All those in favour, please. Thank you. That's unanimous. Item number 5 is proxy voting. Before I go to Kieran to introduce the report, I'd like to move the recommendation, which is on page 19 of the agenda pack. May I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second the recommendation, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Kieran, will you take us through your report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The Fund has responsibility for voting any directly held shares. Voting is undertaken on the Fund's behalf by Hermes EOS in line with the voting principles of LGPS Central. LGPS Central also engages with the companies it has holdings in. This is reported in its quarterly stewardship update, and the most recent update from September last year highlights, among other things, the findings of the 15th UN Emissions Gap Report. An overview of the Hermes EOS voting activity and Central's engagement work is shown in the report and is published on the Fund's website every quarter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kieran. I'll open to any questions, comments, please. The links, all the information's in the report. There's lots of stuff behind just these papers here today. So any further comments? Okay, I see none. The recommendation to note it, I think. So we note that report. Thank you. Moving on to item number 6 is the Local Authority Pension Fund Forum Annual Conference. Before I hand over to Kieran to introduce this report, I'd like to move the recommendation on page 24.
And I'm happy to second the recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Kieran, will you take us through this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The 2024 LAF conference entitled ESG Stand Firm was held between the 4th and 6th of December 2024. And I attended as pension fund officer. Many different engagement issues were covered during the 3 days, and details of the main conference sessions are set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Kieran. Any questions, comments from members, please? No? Well, it's a very comprehensive report, Kieran. Thank you very much for the detail involved. It looked like it was quite an intensive couple of days. Yes, thank you. Okay, the recommendations have been proposed, seconded. I'd like to ask members to vote on that, please. All those in favour? Thank you very much. That's again unanimous. Item number 7 is Pension Fund Treasury Management Strategy Statement 25 to 26. So this is one of our annual pieces of work. Before I hand over to Kieran to introduce the report, I'd like to move the recommendation that we approve it, which is on page 34. I'd like a seconder, please.
Happy to second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, Mike, that's gone now. Yeah, sorry, Kieran. Yes, it's you again. Please take us through this report.
about now, yes. Thank you, Chair. Responsibility for the Treasury management strategy of the pension fund was delegated to the pension fund.
Try again.
Am I back? It was delegated to full council in February 2020. This report outlines the pension fund treasury management strategy to be approved for 2025-26. The strategic aim of treasury the pension fund maintains a prudent level of liquidity, and that any cash balances are deposited with secure counterparties to generate a low risk return. The statement sets out the treasury management practices through which this is to be implemented, and there are no significant changes from last year. The committee is asked to approve the statement for 2025-26. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. So it's an annual piece of work. There's no significant changes to the strategy, as Karen just mentioned. So may I ask for any comments or questions? I see none. So may I ask for your approval? Show of hands, please, to approve it. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Item number 8 is the local government pension scheme fit for future consultation response. So Mr. William mentioned that a little bit earlier in the earlier paper. Before I hand over to Tamsin to introduce report, I'd like to move the recommendation on page 38, please. Ask for a seconder.
Happy to second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Tamsin, would you take us through the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Members will be aware of the Fit for the Future consultation on LGPS pooling, local investment and governance of funds and pools, which was discussed at the December meeting. The response of the Nottinghamshire Pension Fund has been circulated to the committee and the board. The response included views from members, officers, the fund's independent advisor, partner pension funds and LGPS Central. Delegated authority was given to the Section 151 officer and the chair of the Nottinghamshire Pension Fund Committee to prepare, finalise and submit a response from the Nottinghamshire County Council Pension Fund, which was submitted on the 16th of January in accordance with the deadline. The response is provided in Appendix A. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tamsin. It's an unusually short consultation period, and we did a lot of hard work to get this in time. And I do thank members for their contributions towards that, and also William for your help in that matter, and I think LGPS Central a little bit as well from their work. So, any questions or comments, please, from members about this piece of work we had to do to respond to the government's ambitions to take over our pension fund? Yes. Oh, Councillor Chapman. Yeah.
No, I think there's some very good stuff in this paper, but when we get to about page 45, it starts getting a bit petulant. And I just think it is a reasonable request from government to have, I think the wording it uses, to have regard to local growth. And starting off a negative immediately in your response, like no, right, just gives the impression that you've been a bit stroppy. And I think we could make the wording somewhat more delicate, but also show a bit more like, as it were, to this policy. And it's a policy I supported under the last government because they were interested. And I keep reminding people I was the only person in the room that did support the last government's policy on this, and I will continue to support this government's policy. Now, I don't think anybody's going to listen to me on this, and I think it is perfectly reasonable to have a small percentage of our pension fund an attempt to try and dedicate it to local investment. We've done it in the past, and I think it will be a very, very good gesture. On the other hand, I know that it's not going to be a majority view, but it is a reasonable request, and I think some of the wording, which is quite dismissive, should be a bit more delicate. So there.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chapman. I totally understand your views on this one. The problem is we don't really know what local means, and it's so unclear that it will be difficult to
Absolutely.
respond.
Which is why
So,
you can fudge it a lot better.
understand. Yeah. No doubt this will be clarified later in government's response, and we can respond to that when we get it. We've had local investments, as you know, in the past, which have not always been the best, given the best returns. So it is an important area, and we totally understand we do need absolutely local investment.
But
Thank
the
you.
wording is have one of the more powerful words, have regard to, and I think that it's particularly a bit stroppy, a bit petulant when it talks about the working with the local mayor, which I don't think will be particularly helpful. It doesn't mean to say we're asking this pension fund to be investing in stuff we're going to lose money on. But I mean, having regard to and working with the local mayor, I think it seems for opportunities which may render returns, right? It's quite a reasonable thing to ask for.
Thank you, Councillor Waters.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. In contrast to fellow councillors' response, I think our overall reply has been quite balanced and relatively neutral. When I voted response, there was a lot more stronger language, I would suggest. I do think this is a politically motivated decision by the current Labour government, which will see a lot of our pension monies risked in infrastructure projects, and local isn't going to mean here in Nottinghamshire it takes limited regard of Nottinghamshire members' demograph. So I think taking the power from our pension fund and putting it into a centralised part is potentially quite a bad move, and it's politically motivated. So thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. I agree with much of what you've said. Councillor Lee.
Chairman, thank you. I completely agree with Councillor Lee Waters. He seems to have pinched all the things from my brain. I think he's completely right. I think you only have to look at the mess over in the city with the Robin Hood Energy, and we know that the Labour National Government are looking at investment with local energy firms, or what they class as local actually means invest it across the country. And I think that has to be a concern, is when they say local, what do they actually mean by local? Is we know that they're pro-EU, so does local mean as long as it's in Europe, or as long as it's in the EU, or does it mean national, or does it mean, we don't know. But I do have major concerns when it comes to governments and politically motivated investments that will help them as a government invest more money, and when we here, and I know I'm only a substitute here, we are responsible for the members on this pension committee, and that's all we are responsible for. And it does concern me that these politically motivated decisions are getting made by a national government that don't have any real interest in our members, and it does concern me.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lee. Councillor Butler, I think you indicated too.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I basically agree with the last two comments. Nothing wrong with robust answers, and also the very direct questions. Do you agree? Well, if or not? Well, yes or no is the answer to that. And then we've sort of gone into details as to why we may or may not agree with the recommendation. So I'd try and assure Councillor Chapman it's simply a direct answer to a direct question. You know, do you agree? Yes or no? But that said, as well, it's already been mentioned. It was really rather short notice to have such a consultation going on, which I think always perhaps sets alarm bells ringing with some people. And at the end of the day, for many years, whoever's been on this committee, whoever's been running it, has been running it pretty well for the benefit of Nottinghamshire pensioners and future pensioners. And so I think quite rightly the responses should reflect the fact that we are sort of proud of the work that the pension scheme has done over the years to help, and I suspect we're just doing what anyone else would do and fighting a corner for it. So I don't think the tone of response was particularly unhelpful or offensive or stroppy. It's just factual as far as this committee was concerned.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butler. I think the point there is that we do appear, but we still don't know what the ultimate end result is. But we will be losing pretty much our independence as committee representing the 155,000 pensioners in Nottinghamshire. both present and future. So it is hard, it is tough, and I think Mr. Bourne has indicated his views that it's probably going to happen whatever we think of it anyway. So we are where we are, and I think we have done a response that is as balanced as it could be in that short term. So we'll see what happens when government respond. Any further questions or comments, please? I see none. I think the recommendations. Sorry. Oh, Councillor Chapman, did you?
Yeah. Sorry,
Yes, you're hidden.
just seeing as I'm under attack from sides, I thought I'd just. I mean, first of all, I did not want to politicise this, all right? And I did say that under the last government they were moving in this direction, and I supported that. So it's not partly political. So therefore, I'm a bit. I do have to defend this thing about Robin Hood energy. I think it's politicising it unnecessarily. And I would also remind people that we took a decision to maintain the municipal bus company as well. It's the best bus company in the country because it got two, so it can split both ways, right? Sometimes you risk of making a mistake, sometimes it goes extremely well, right? So I don't think that's a particularly very pertinent point. On the other issue, I do think we have some responsibility to our own area, because simply for our own economic reasons, right? If there's underinvestment in Nottinghamshire, there's underinvestment in the UK, right? This is a major source of funding. Now, if there's underinvestment, right, that reduces your business rate take. If it reduces your business rate take in the long term, then you've got fewer staff. If you've got fewer staff, you've got fewer people investing. That's in your pension fund. So there are some legitimate reasons for it, and I'll rest my case there. Thank you very much for your tolerance. Right.
As always, thank you. So the report is to be noted, so there's no need to vote on the item unless anybody else wants to comment. Okay, so we'll note the report. Thank you. Item number 9 is the procurement of an independent advisor for the local pensions board. Before I hand over to Joe Toomey to introduce the report, I'll move the recommendation on page 53.
Happy to second that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Joe, would you like to take us through your report, please?
Thank you. To support the local pensions board and to make sure that it's got access to advice and to support its training and help it with horizon scanning, the Funds makes arrangements for the board to have access to its own independent advisor. The contract with the current provider is coming to an end at the beginning of June, so this report's brought to you to seek approval for us to undertake a procurement exercise to identify a new advisor for the board, so that we've got continuation from the end of the current contract. Work with colleagues in procurement and legal is now at an advanced stage, and we're on track to begin the process in line with the indicative timetable that's included within the report. So today we're asking members to approve the undertaking of that procurement exercise, together with the subsequent award of contract for 3 years, with the option to extend that contract for a year plus a further year.
Thank you very much, Joe. So it's really just the normal way of things for independent advisors, similar contract periods, that kind of stuff. We have to approve it because I guess that's part of the regulations, not that it's going to impact directly on us. So any questions or comments from members, please? Councillor Purdy-Horan.
Just a question.
Speaker, please.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman. The contract period of 311, am I correct in assuming that that is different to 3+2?
Okay, Joe, would you just answer that technicality? It probably is legally, isn't it? But yes, it's just the option of whether they want to renew at the end of it for another year to consider other
Adds
options.
an extra break point in should either party want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Okay, the recommendation has been moved and seconded. All those in favour of approving it, please? Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much. I'll now move on to item number 10, which is conferences and training, a very, very important part of enabling us to do the important work that we currently do. Before I hand over to Joe to introduce the report, I'll The recommendations are on page 58 59. May I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Joe, would you like to take us through the report, please?
Thank you. Most of you will be familiar with the annual conferences and training report, and much of the content is in line with what you've had previously. This time, however, we've included a section which gives a brief overview of proposals for inducting new members of the committee and board following the elections this year. We're continuing to develop these in conjunction with colleagues from Democratic Services, and they'll all feed into the induction plan. We'll also be asking members of the committee and board to complete a training needs analysis, which will help us plan the training throughout the year, and will also help us to support members gain knowledge of any specific areas where they identify any gaps. The draft template for the TNA is attached as Appendix A, and it picks up those areas of knowledge and understanding that we've set out in our training strategy. The next element of the report is the regular training activity, and Table 1 gives an overview of this. The final section covers a number of conferences, and the report asks committee to approve members' attendance at these. Since the report went to print, the dates of the governance conference have now been confirmed as the 29th and 30th of January 2026, and the destination will be Cardiff. In the next few days, I'll be emailing the non-county council members of committee to find out their availability, so please keep an eye out for that email and respond as soon as you can. Once we've confirmed who the county council members are following the election, we'll contact them to find out their availability. We recognise, and you may be sort of looking at some of the dates of some of the conferences and thinking they're very soon after the election, and we are very cognisant of this. Particularly the PLSA conference on the 16th and 18th of June. The booking deadline for that is at the end of May, so we'll therefore be seeking to fill the available places from the non-county council committee members in the first instance. With regard to the Strategic Investment Forum, which is the 30th of June to the 1st of July, we've also got an inquiry in place to understand the limitations around booking, so we can understand how much pressure we'll be putting on you all to respond to us, and whether we'll have to have a cut-off point, which again will affect where we can draw those representatives from. So please be aware that the turnaround will be fast, and if you indicate that you would like to attend, please keep those dates free so that we can hit the go button if we need to. For conferences beyond that, we won't look at making any allocations until we've got a full picture of the membership, of the availability of the membership across the committee, and so that we can make sure that those opportunities are spread as widely as possible.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe. It's a very important part of the stuff we do. The conferences can be hard work, but they can also be very useful in improving your skills and expertise for the fund. Recommend you go to them. I think the point about who's going to be here and whatever, we do have an election coming up, so the committee may change, we don't know. So, but it's very important to, if you possibly might be back, or then to think about those dates and put them in your diaries, please. It's very important we get people to go along. The other thing I guess is the fundamentals one is really the most important one, which is in the autumn for any new members, so, and any members that yet not completed it for the current committee. Any other questions or comments, please, about the conference and training? No comments about the assessments that we need to do? Councillor?
Well, just an observation, really. I mean, as for those of us who have been around for a few years now, I think it always put ourselves back to when we all first started and got onto the pensions board. And I think quite a few people are genuinely surprised at the requirement and the commitment needed to go to some of these, which are actually compulsory. You have to do fundamentals and so on before you're actually allowed to take decisions on the committee. So yeah, as you say, Mr. Chairman, it's all very, very important, and whoever is on the next committee in the future will no doubt benefit from the training. Is it worth noting as well, or perhaps actually it's a possible question, some of the fundamentals training in particular, is some of it is done online now, isn't it, just to perhaps give a bit of guidance to potential members?
Yes, that's correct, that you can do it online. I would, unless the government changes the regulations, which it may do, currently they're not mandatory. They are very, very highly recommended by officers. Joe, do you want to clarify that technical point, please?
Yeah, as a fund, we've obviously got a commitment to training, and it's a requirement within the Constitution. Our recommendation, just because of its comprehensiveness, is that all members undertake fundamentals, and we will keep encouraging you to do that to make sure that you've got that base. It won't prevent you from sitting, and will support you to make sure that you've got enough knowledge to come in and start working, because those fundamental sessions only happen once a year in the autumn. So if you just miss one, you could potentially have a long break until the next one. So hopefully we can work with you and any incoming members to make sure you all get what you need, whether that be through fundamentals this year or we keep it as an option for the future.
Thank you for the clarification, Joe. So we've had a discussion about it. You've got the recommendation. All those in favour, please. That's unanimous. Thank you. We now move on to item 11, which is our work programme. Recommendation to approve it on page 66. So I'll move that. Seconder, please.
Happy to second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. Would you take us through the report, Tamsin, please?
Thank you, Chair. In the appendix, you will see the work programme for the rest of the committee meetings of the current cycle. The committee is asked to identify any additional reports required. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Tamsin. Any comments, questions from members about the work programme, please? Okay, I see none. There's no recommenders for changes, so can we approve the work programme, please? Show of hands. Thank you. That's unanimous. Okay, we're moving on to item number 12, which is the Nottinghamshire Pension Fund Risk Register and Risk Deep Dive. We're doing this in two parts. There are elements of the risk analysis that we need to do in an excluded part of the meeting. So I'll move the bit in the open part of the meeting with the recommendations on page 74. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. And may I ask Joe to introduce report and our guests from jury, please?
Thank you. Sorry, hopefully you won't have to hear too much more from me this morning. You're obviously all aware of the work we've been doing over a protracted period with the support of Zurich to carry out a fundamental review of our risk register for the pension fund. To support your understanding of how we've pulled that together, you've obviously had access to training in the past, and I know we've had conversations when we've brought the draft to you. Within the report this time, we've included within tables 1 and 2 the considerations that have been taken into account when assessing and scoring risk, and then table 3 shows you how that information has been turned into the risk score. And when we've spoken before, we've talked about risk registers being living documents. They are, and we keep them under review, but we bring them to you regularly because we're also very aware that they are subjective, dependent on your risk appetite or how your experience of the work you do will make you think, well, actually, I think that's more serious than you do, or wow, I think you've maybe put a bit too much emphasis on this. So we've got the full risk register attached to the report so that we can have that conversation with you as we go, and there's an opportunity to really explore the nitty-gritty of those kinds of conversations within the deep dive. You've been introduced to Matt this morning, who will support us as we go through that deep dive process today, and kind of give us opportunities to ask questions and challenge, so that we can make sure that everybody's comfortable with the level of risk and how it's being managed. The final thing we'd like from you today is that we're asking you to identify a topic for the next deep dive. we can then go away and work that up for you and bring it back next time we bring the risk register to a meeting. We'll also share that with the pensions board, and they'll be doing the same. So any suggestions for topics for deep dive, please let us know.
Thank you, Joe. So do any members have any comments, questions about the process, about this part of the item? Okay, I see none. And the recommendations that we note the contents of the deep dive and we identify a topic. Are we, anybody happy to think about that later when we've gone through it, see any areas of the detail that we may want to go into? Is that a fair comment? Everybody happy with that? Okay, so can I just have a show of hands that you agree with that, please? Thank you, that's unanimous. So thank you very much, Joe. I now move to item number 13, which is the exclusion of the public, both here and on YouTube. We now move to that part of the agenda that proposes we meet in closed session to consider the exempt information in agenda item 16. I therefore invite the committee to resolve that the public be excluded for the remainder of the meeting on the grounds that discussions are likely to involve the disclosure of exempt information as described in Schedule 12A of Local Government Act 1972, and the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing that information. May I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, happy to second.
Thank you. May I take a vote? Show of hands, please. And that's unanimous. May I thank the members of the public out there for being attending with us today, and hopefully see you next time. Thank you.